Good afternoon, everybody. It is the 2nd of October, and we continue to see consolidation across the markets after yesterday's volatility. And today we'll start with Bitcoin, so we'll just get right into it. 200-day moving averages continue to decline for the next little while until once we get rid of this data here, we're going to continue up, and the 200-day will be continuing to decline. So we would really need to rally up above this 66.5 level in order to get that to flatten out and rise. We have a rising 50 and a rising 20-day moving average, so we've got mixed messages in this market. We are below currently a 5-day moving average, that is declining on the shorter term time frame. However, as you can see here, and we're under that. And yesterday we found we found some buyers off the bounce from this high up here, and then it looks like we've now undercut that bounce, and we are heading back down to the anchor from the recent peak as well as the recent low from 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 essentially the recent low. If we look at the daily time frame, had us kind of a bunch of anchors here that's seems consolidating between this 59 and 60 area. I think if we see more profit taking, we break this anchor from this recent low. I'd say the likeliness we're probably heading down to this 51k area. That's likely where we'll see it, and that will continue the pattern of lower highs and lower lows on the daily time frame, and it backs up that 200-day moving average. So that's really all that's relevant. If you're involved, know where your stop is, and don't allow it to turn into a big loss. If we look at if we go to the markets now, if we look at the SPY, it seems that we've, seems to be consolidating through time here. We found some buyers at the volume weighted average price from this low today, bounced perfectly off of that, and also that's a band of resistance that seems to be acting as support. And I just got an alert there for Bitcoin as it starts to sell off here. So there is a band of resistance here acting as support. That's where we seem to have found buyers. Like I posted on Twitter this morning, if we see a further pull down, if we do see further profit taking in this market, chances are we are heading down to that 560-ish level, which is the anchor from this high, as well as potentially there's also a little bit of a level here on the anchor from that gap. So in and around this potential level of interest here, again, just a level of interest and not a buy point. If we look at the NASDAQ, similar things. Um, Pulled back to that volume weighted average price from the low, and it seems to be consolidating under a 5-day moving average. It's not something to buy, it's not something to get short on either, really, because we still have mixed messages here on the daily time frame. We have a rising 20-day moving average, 50 is starting to decline, 200 days rising, so it's a bit all over the place. There's no real current trend or direction. Semiconductors rising 20, declining 50, rising 200 on the shorter term time frame, declining 5-day moving average, and it will ultimately until we get rid of all this data over the next 2 days, unless we get a big rally up. We'll have a quick look at NVDA later just to verify what's going on, but ultimately that's what's happening. It's mixed messages across the market. It's not a time to get long or short. It's cash as a position. Biotechs pulled down to pretty much down to what I had sketched in yesterday, which was that potential trend line, found some supply there, bounced back up, got a back, but actually closed up above the volume weighted average price for the week here, and now that 5-day moving average is starting to flatten and rise. But problem is, once we get rid of tomorrow's data, we're also then potentially hitting into some more data here. We have the anchor from the recent high above us. We also have the right. We also have the that is an anchor from the end of the month, and then we're above the volume weighted average price for the month. So XBI is looking a little bit more has a little bit more potential, but again, it's just a pattern of lower highs and lower lows on this shorter term time frame. I don't think it's a buy quite yet. What probably I would like to see is maybe a bit of a rally up to this. Sorry, I'm not quite sure why that is. Let me Doesn't allow me to actually change it. I would like to see a bit of a rally from here up into maybe this anchor from the high, pull back, allow it to kind of consolidate a little bit, and then we can get involved once that 5-day moving average starts to flatten itself out. If this is the 5-day moving average that's coming around, maybe it's something along the lines of this, and this is maybe where we get involved as it makes a higher high above this flat to rising 5-day moving average. I think we're a little early in it yet. I think the bigger market is looking a little bit more weak, and I think it would not be smart getting necessarily involved in the biotechs just now, but something just to keep an eye on as we get rid of this data tomorrow. We may see a rally. We are unfortunately, let me just clear this off. 50-day moving average is now going to start declining because we're getting into this data up here, and the 20-day moving average is going to be kind of flat to potentially declining depending on what happens in the next few days. So again, mixed messages and not something to get involved on the long or the short just now. Russell 2000 pulled back to the 20-day moving average. 50-day moving average is starting to decline. 5-day moving average is declining on the daily and will so for the next few days. Just not something to get involved in. Energy names. Energy names has a flat to rising 50-day moving average now, 200 days starting to rise, and the 20 days starting to rise. So now we're looking like we could be potentially turning this market around a little bit. We're a little bit extended here. We've just run from, 85 to 91, so it's almost run 7%. If you're looking to get involved in energy now, it's above the moving averages and it's turned around. I would say you probably want to look maybe a pullback to that week-to-date volume average price, and then if it builds, then maybe that's a buy for a stop under there. Picking the wrong tool here. You can buy up here with a stop under here, maybe, if that's how it plays out. But, right now it's looking more of the bullish ETFs, and it's just the way things go. Financials look like they're consolidating through time. We've got a rising 5-day moving average, and we'll do for the next day, unless, and then it will start to decline if we don't kind of rally up to that 45 mark. 45-40 mark. So just something to keep in mind. Again, we've got a declining 20, we have a rising 50. So, if we see a bit of a rally tomorrow up to 45, then that will start to flatten that 20-day moving average out, and then the trend will align. But financials is up to you if you want to get involved in. We'll have a quick look at the bonds. Bonds gap down today substantially. It's a problem when you're trading bonds. The underlying asset is money, and when something like this happens where it looks like it's going to get going and you gap down the next day, we gapped below the 50-day moving average, and we never got back above it, and now we have a declining 20-day moving average. So what looked bullish now seems like it reversed itself quite strongly. If you're involved here, I would say just make sure you get out and don't take too much of a loss. I think we need to wait for this to set up. That 5-day moving average is now going to continue to decline. I'm not going to fight the direction of that 5-day moving average. We'll have a quick look at NVDA before the day's out. In my opinion, NVIDIA's at a pretty critical level. We were at the find buyers at that low anchor here, as well as if we put an anchor on the all-time high here, we're kind of we're finding some supply there. Once we've kind of made, if we have a little bit closer look at this price action, we rallied back and found some buyers at the volume weighted average price, but it was also likely provided a little bit of support off of that all-time high anchor as well. So right now I still see what seems to be a pattern of lower highs and lower lows. So NVIDIA is not a buy just yet. We have a declining 5-day moving average, and we also have a declining 50, but we do have a rising 20. So again, mixed messages across these markets, and I think it's safe to be cash as a position, or manage your risk accordingly. But my advice would be to, if you're not involved in the market, don't be a rush to. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.